to another episode of Beneath the Lift Tower. My name's Charles McGillivray, and as always, I'm joined by Simon Stacey and Jess Kebble. We're a fans podcast by fans for fans of Northampton Saints. I'm sort of feeling this is going to be a tough podcast. I mean, I did say on the last one I was sort of expecting to be leaving the ground in a pretty bad state, but I did not expect. Well, how are you both doing?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know where to start with that one. I mean, you can't account for some of that. You know, how does a player get named in Team of the Six Nations tournament on the Monday, and then fall so below his exceptional standards come the Friday night? And it wasn't just one player; it was across the board, wasn't it?
Yeah. Put it mildly. Yeah. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing, if I'm honest, mate. I don't want to badmouth anybody, but it was awful. There was literally no. But to be fair, I think Pearson played all right, and Walker, when he come on, he looked a live wire. But there's literally nothing you could take from that game and go, "Oh, look at that in the week," and say, "Yeah, you did well there." It was awful, and it was against them, mate. They get nailed at home to them is just. It just hits harder. It hits harder. And I've said it all along. I've said it. The people next to me always say, like, it happens every time we have a break. Our boys never come back. You're not blaming them. I know it happens. They play different type of rugby, but we always come back and we are always awful. Look at last year. Was it Bristol? Absolutely battered by Bristol. And like we were saying last week, why didn't we play a friendly? Because you could see they played Munster. They were battle ready and they were ready for it. We just looked so off. People like Trevor, sorry, I'm going on here. Big Trevor, he hasn't played a game for 7 weeks. You can't play against them in a big game like that and not have any type of rugby for 7 weeks. Some of them boys haven't played for 4 or 5 weeks. It was awful. I didn't watch. They didn't even have any interviews after the game because nobody come out. I haven't even seen Dawson's yet. I was just distraught, mate. It was awful. I stayed to the end though. Just in case
definitely stay at the end. That wouldn't be, but I fully understand the people that were flying out of there way before the end of the game because, I sort of said last week our game came down to 2 seasons, right? Our season came down to 2 games. Friday and then Claremont fixture. That was so bad that I don't think we could win the Champions Cup, and I'd almost feel disappointed with the season. Like that to lose to them that badly was gutting. Is the word, isn't it? And especially when it's not like they're real title contenders. Maybe that'll come back and bite me now. Bite me. Maybe they'll go on a run, but that you compare where we were at the end of last year, you compare where Bath are, where Bristol are, Tigers at this point in time, and in that game even, are nowhere near the required standard to be champions, I don't think. And we lost to them 3-0. That's
the problem. That's the problem. The problem with it is they didn't even have to play that well. That's the worrying thing. They were different to what they usually do. They weren't the boring game they usually play. They actually did try and score some good points, but they weren't even that good. We were just that rubbish. It's just
you go through their tries, right? So first try, Radwan try. What the hell was that defensive read from the outside? It's basically stepping out and opening up at the front door. Slamming in on a man who's passed the ball. You're giving your man outside a 2-on-1. It's Radwan's going to finish that. And you look at the JVP try, right? How the hell at that level of standard of rugby do you not have a guard on the ruck? Right? That's under 11 stuff. How do you have a ruck in that level where there is no one on guard? I know Augustus got took past the ruck, right? But stay awake. I understand what's going on. Like, you can't not have a guard in place to let an international standard player, let's face it, just walk through. He finished it really well. Nice little chip, right? But you're selling your full back out to dry because what's he supposed to do?
Yeah.
The try, when young Pollock tried to run it. You know, we got a penalty on our own line. He tries to run it. The pass goes to Deck because no one's even switched on. You know, they're probably befuddled because of the scoreline. And then your young 19-year-old Seven comes on and taps and goes on your own 5-meter line. Goes to the floor. They walk through unopposed. You know,
and get a bonus point. That was their bonus point try as well, wasn't it?
Those tries are just given away. The Lindenberg try. Again, I'm not going to say a name, right? But there was one. How do you get stepped? How does a back get stepped by a number 8? And mate, just so far out, he doesn't even touch him.
I don't want to interrupt you there, but in my opinion, he was their man of the match, not Van Porford. He was insane on that night. He was everywhere. He was still running after the ball in the 80th minute, that boy. So fair play. You know I hate them with a passion, but he was absolutely awesome. How he didn't get man of the match, I don't know.
Yeah, he's always been good for them. You know, he's a proper physical, good signing, big physical player, gets through work. Yeah, but you know, how can someone just walk through like that? You know. I just,
we were that poor because Freddie Stewart looked world class.
Getting suited him, wasn't it?
My opinion. I'm not, I always say he's not. He's great at what he does, but he's not like a top. But he had a great game as well, and that's how crap we were. Excuse me for swearing.
Yeah, no, but he that was a game that suited him. A lot of competition in the air, right? And there's one thing him being world class and getting the upper hand there, right? But there's another thing dropping the ball unopposed.
Yeah.
You know, I like I said, I'm not going to single out an individual, right? But I'm going to say one name who unfortunately had a bad game, right? Who was beginning of the season outstanding, and went away to England A, and now the Ealing performance and the Tigers performance, it's like it's been space jammed. You know, like. George Hendy, like he was one of the most promising players, and he's one of the most promising players in the country. He won us the final. He got man of the match off the bench in the final. Phenomenal start to the year. The last 2 games against Ealing and Tigers since he went away to England A, he's so far off where we know he is. You know, I know he will know that himself. I know he will recognise that he's not at the levels he can operate at, but.
I know we're not coaches. I know we're not coaches, but Jess and I say it every week when they pick between him and Ram. Why they don't play Ram at 15, I do not know. Hendy on the wing, just give him the ball, let him run with his rubber legs. You don't give him that issue about trying to catch the high ball, especially as it was raining, because we literally got about 20 points behind, and then the rain started. I was like, that's just done. But sorry.
I think, I was gonna. That's exactly what I was gonna say. I said I said this before. I said like, depending on who you're playing, I can get the idea of swapping them around. But it was obvious before we even played that you shouldn't have been in that position. And then it was more obvious the more that once you make 2 drop catches at 15, you swap them. There was no reason that they should have come out at half time, into the second half, playing the same positions, because he kept getting angry at himself. And then it just means that you're less likely to get yourself back into and we can give him, that probably there's enough I think he's got enough credit in the bank that we can probably give him a couple of performances, but they needed to have helped him out there by swapping them around. Even if just your captain goes and says, you know what, lads, just swap around, because it was pretty obvious, especially when as the weather was getting wetter and they were kicking more and more. It's just that he was completely in his head and he couldn't get out of it, and it just felt like, is there a way that you just take a little bit of pressure off and just see what happens? But I don't think he should have been 15 in the first place. They were always going to kick quite a lot, and then they really were when, like I said, when the weather got bad, and it was known sort of beforehand that the weather was going to get bad.
I agree,
but I don't think he was the only one. I think there are some. I'm not going to go into it too much, but I think there's a reason that Hutchison didn't come back on in the second half, and that was a standout for me in the first half. But I think there's a lot of soul searching that needs to happen, because there are some of them, and I really hate to say it because we know how much we support the team, but there are some of them that I don't question some people's kind of ability and their want to win, but there were some of them that I did question that. I questioned where they were mentally and what must have been going through their head, because there were a good few of them that didn't seem to be bothered. And if you can't get yourself revved up for a derby game, it kind of worries you for the rest of the season because we've got some other really big games to come. And so it feels like it's not, it feels like it's a mental thing, because we all know that the physical abilities are there and that it can, when it works, it can really work. But this just seems to be something, and I don't know what it is. But we did know coming into this season, we're basically starting from scratch, right? We're having to completely rebuild. And I think they need to be given sort of time for that, but it still isn't really an excuse for that performance. Even if you still lost, but you got some points on the board and you fought, it's the 0 for me.
Yeah, I mean, going back to your point around the 15, Hendy ran, etc., etc. It's like, I agree with you fully that, in hindsight, but probably should have known best anyway. 15, they should have been swapped, right? Ram should have probably started. You then go through your whole week training in that system. The problem is then when someone has a couple of errors, right? At what point does taking them out of it actually is the worst decision?
Do you know?
He
I
did
just
come
got
back
on that point. Sorry, if you say that didn't help in the second half. For just one point in that, when he caught one finally, and all the crowd were like, "Oh!" like so. I was like, "That's really not going to help, guys, is it? That's just going to make it feel worse." Yeah. But yeah, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, but you're right. Because he did come back and he got a couple. Yeah, he got jeered by the crowd, right? And it really annoys me where I sit, because you get a lot of churn of new people. There's not a lot of season ticket holders around me, and you hear the comments of like, "Who is this guy? He's clearly not up to it," right? Well, he was the guy who got man of the match and won us the final.
Yeah.
And like, whilst I accept and agree, looking at in the performance, it's nowhere near. But it annoys me that there isn't that understanding of, no, this guy is seriously good. Something is up. But anyway, but if you take him out of it sort of halfway through, it's almost that could be sort of finite in destroying his confidence. Giving him the ability to sort of get back on the horse when the game's gone, get him out there, get experience. That's a really tricky one, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It is, yeah.
Good example, and you'll know him as well because being a Bedford boy, is Pritchard. Remember when we signed him from Bedford? And his first game, I think he dropped the first 4 balls. He was at fullback, and it totally did him in. And I think he ended up leaving, didn't he? Did he leave the season, that same season, back to Bedford or similar? It just totally took his confidence.
Yeah, I think he pretty much played that one game. And it wasn't just dropping the ball, it was also, I think he went 0 for 5 of goal kicks.
Yeah,
if
you take somebody off or move because they've dropped loads of ball, they're just going to be like, right, next game, I'm going to be better, and then they'll keep doing it. So you had to leave him, but I would have never started him there. Ram's a bit older, a lot more agile. He can jump like 20 meters in the air because of his gymnastics.
Yeah.
So it's perfect.
I think one of the reasons, though, that sort of I'm hesitant to pick out one person is because it was atrocious across the board.
Yeah.
So I feel like, you don't want to, because he had an off game, and I could see when he was sort of walking towards his family or friends, like he was devastated, and I should imagine the whole team were. So I feel like, it was a team thing. Something wasn't quite right with, because like I said, even Finn couldn't pass for toffee, and that's the best part of his game. That's one of the best parts of his game. Sort of sets him apart from quite a lot of other. And so I'm just like, something just wasn't. But then I wouldn't blame him necessarily either, because it just felt like nobody was on it. And so I felt like even if his passes were doing what they meant to do, I'm not convinced it would have changed anything. It was just it was really, really bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say. I know some you talked, you said about Pearson, and I think you named another name, right? But I would say Walker, yeah. I'd say
they were all awful. They were all awful. I just meant Pearson looked like he was trying, but they were all rubbish. Yeah,
they all had moments when they looked good. That other than the knock on went for the Pollock under the post. The one that got disallowed because of the knock on from Endy. Other than the knock on, that little chip and go to set up Pollock was actually really good. He got, if he had caught it and done that, it would have been an outstanding moment. But it's like they had moments where there were obviously elements of seeing what they can do, but there was moments of utter disaster. Just they looked like they didn't have a clue. Like I said, it's unacceptable for that Van Porvik try to not have a guard. That's like step one of defending. Make sure you're guarding the ruck. You know, it's
because that was the thing, isn't it? It was like I think Hendy went for the charge down, which I think was a wrong call, but it shouldn't have gotten that far anyway. I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like people were being put under pressure, not necessarily because of their own actions, but because of other people's lack of actions, really, for want of a better. It was just the thing is, it's just like, you know, it's one of those that we know what we can do as a team, and I still think we can. Like, the Prem season's done, but I still feel like, you know, we can get back to where that is. It's just they need to have conversations about why it is, because I really don't think it's a lack of talent or anything. There's just some kind of mental blockage going on at the moment that they absolutely need to overcome. Because I mean, you saw how well the Saints has played when they played for England. They were at the top of their game, and like Finn, for example, just didn't bring that day for whatever reason.
Yeah, we've always been the same though. Like I said earlier, I've been going to the Gardens 38 years, and every time after an international break, our boys just they play a different brand of rugby, and they can't get back into the Saints way. And it was just awful.
But I feel like it goes deeper than that, because I don't think it's just the England boys. That performance against Ealing didn't have any of the England boys in, and it was the same. It was well, actually, I'd say Ealing was slightly better as a performance than Tigers, but it was the same in terms of what was going wrong. It's like it's the group of players as a whole core, isn't it? It's not. Even if Finn could have been playing at the top of his game, and I really don't think it would have made a difference, because you can't drag up 14 other people that for whatever reason just are not at the level that they need to be, for that game. Like we can blame the internationals as kind of like an easy scapegoat, but I think it goes further than that.
I wasn't blaming on that. I was just saying we always seem to play poor after.
Definitely.
We didn't play just a friendly. Like I said, they played Munster, and apparently it was a brutal match, and you could see they were fired up for it. So like I said earlier, some of them hadn't played for 7 weeks. You can't expect somebody. I thought Big Trev was probably out, if it's possible, our best player, because he had their loose head on toast. Literally every scrum, the referee didn't give it. He was losing his mind, taking a knee, and the ref didn't give it. But to play 60 minutes when you haven't played for 7 weeks was fair play to him. But yeah, there's nobody. Nobody stood out in that game.
Yeah, I mean,
the only decent person at the Gardens was the saxophone player. That was it.
Let's not even go into our friend Anthony Woodthorpe, whatever his name is, and his performance. That's not worth talking about. But wow. But yeah, it is definitely a mental thing, isn't it? And I think I still think the Ealing performance was worse, because that was clearly it. That was almost a motivation thing. They didn't look up for it. They looked like the other team wanted it more. Whereas Tigers, it was more a case of nothing worked. Nothing. There were lots of energy. There was lots of energy in around moving in, trying defense, etc. But they were getting into the wrong places. The ball goes over from Pollard. Seabrook gets it, and no one's getting around him. They're all getting back in. Like, they're asking him to do too much because they're not getting around him to get support. He gets bundled into touch. Liebenberg scores from the line out. There wasn't a lack of effort. I don't think. I think it was just mentally they weren't quite there. Mentally they weren't tough enough, and nothing worked. They weren't clinical. Anything they did. I also think that our forward pack is a big drop off from where we were last year. I mean, and if you look at the names that are not in that forward pack that were in it last year: Waller, Matavesi, Moon, Laws, Ludlam, Graham isn't in it at the moment. Those senior players leaving, I think, have left a huge void. And Coles is a great player. Langdon is a great player, but they're being asked to burden a lot of it, I think.
I did think that was a weird call not to start Coles, if I'm honest. Whether he's got a knock or something, I just thought that was really strange, because he's your line-out leader, isn't he? Against them, like, you know what I mean? I just thought that was a bit weird.
I did sort of comment to my mate. I was way of saying, almost sort of gallows humour, saying, well, at least the line-out's gone well, because we did fairly good with that. And I'm guessing that's a continuity thing. I think Lockett's probably ran the line out for
Yeah.
Training for a few weeks, and so they went with the pairings of Lockett and Timo, and then Green and Munter and Coles. But the line out was actually functional. If we want to take away any positives, but I think.
But I think that, but I do think that's why sort of like I'm not in this kind of like major panic mode of when you do think about who is missing, to like just expect that everything's going to be an absolute run on from last season is just naive. Like there is a lot of work to do. Like we knew there was a lot of work to do going. Like I see, it still doesn't. We're still way off. I still think way off where we should be, but if you're putting in a lot of effort and just for whatever reason in that game, it just isn't coming together. At least you can build up from that. When there's lack of effort and motivation, that's where your difficulty is. So that motivation and that effort, they can really kind of channel that over the next. Because I mean, Sale, I we'll talk about it more in a bit, but Sale for me is that's just not going to happen. I don't think it matters who you send. I just can't see that happening. So I feel like you just need to get everyone in camp, and you need to build towards Europe and just get everybody. I don't know, because I don't really know the answer, because we don't really know, the kind of behind the scenes.
To be fair, after that performance, the whole lot would be playing again at Sale. I would have rested them for Clement, but they need a kick up the arse and just say, look, you need to put a...
Well, the thing is, I think the one thing that showed is that they actually do need the match time. So I think they really simply have to play. Because at first we were thinking you go really strong against Tigers and then you rest and you send... We just don't have that option. They haven't played enough. And against Tigers, because they didn't really do anything, they still haven't really played enough. So, they'll be sending that team with Mitchell and Freeman, I would imagine, to Sale.
Yeah, they're in training, aren't they? So hopefully...
100%. But the only thing is that I think when I was listening to one of the games over the weekend, the commentary was that they have to rest their internationals in the first 3 games. No way that you're leaving Finn out for Claremont. So I'm assuming he won't be going to Sale, which then just makes it really difficult, because the last I heard GMC was still injured, and then you have Hutchison at 10, and that's not a winning formula. It's nothing against him. I think in the sense he's great. It just isn't a winning formula. But you will have Freeman and Mitchell back in, but I'm assuming that they'll be forced.
Can we just have a medical joker, like Bowden Barrett or something like that, just to cover?
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll be able to argue that over a bit because of Finn didn't play every minute. I think they will rest Finn, but the thing is, right, like 100% that we've all said, go well against Tigers, send the kids to Sale, focus on Clement. The performance was so off, so poor. You can't afford to do that. They have to have another go at it. Yeah, have to go at it and desperately try and find some form and some rhythm from something, because I know you said, well, we're starting from scratch and we can go better, but you can't get any lower than losing 33-0 at home to Tigers. Like that's as low as it can go. If it goes lower than that, fold the club. That's as bad. That's such a bad performance, and I know the club will know that, and I know they'll understand that, the importance of that fixture. But that's almost ruined the season from my perspective. That is so low, and the only way is up. But they have to find some form from somewhere. Going from being champions to losing 33-0 at home to Tigers. I mean, you could
exactly. There's losing and there's being nilled. Like when we were playing Gloucester, did we nilled Gloucester, didn't we? When we got 19-0
this year as well.
All the people behind us were going, "Oh, I'd let them get a try." I was like, "No, nilling them is like the total utter destruction." They were desperate not to let us score. And I don't know why we didn't take the 3 points. I think it was halfway through the first half, just to get something on the scoreboard. We were right in front of the post. Just take 3 so we don't get nilled.
And that's a learning curve, isn't it? I mean, Dinger's captain, and I think he was running his blood to water, sort of trying to make effort, but it wasn't happening. I mean, the
only bonus is, again, Berger came on and he looked pretty decent and he managed to stay on and didn't get injured. So I know that's not clutching at straws, but he's been out for so long, just to see him play twice and come through it and be okay.
He's clearly a good character. Brings a lot of spirit as well, a lot of energy. So
he's a big lad.
Hopefully, something.
I mean, it's what I was hoping when they brought Pollock on, because he actually did what he could. I mean, which ended up being nothing because we didn't get anything. But he did it was like the burst of sort of energy, and it did seem to work for a little bit of time. It's just we couldn't at that point. I think the 0 points, the rain, the fact that we just couldn't keep hold of a ball, like
Exactly that.
he's magic, but he's not that magic, you know. Like
No.
he couldn't
I said
overcome all of that, but he tried. He
Yeah.
almost got me a point as well. He almost got me a point because I picked him as the scorer, but Hendy knocked it on. I was like, and I knew after he scored, I was like, that's being chalked off.
I was again, but Gallows humor. I was saying, well, when Pollock comes on, he's got a lot to do when we were 21-0 down, or whatever. But the thing is, if he had scored that try, the one under the post, or the Seabrook try had have been scored, or Seabrook had recycled the ball and we'd have probably gone over, sort of thing. It would have been a 2-score game, and you never know because pressure, momentum, crowd effort.
Yeah, exactly.
That was it after the first half.
Any foothold.
No, the first half we were literally. I was like, we could have been 40 or 50 points down. Pollard didn't bring his kicking boots. So, like, they weren't that far ahead. I was like, if we come out second half, score a couple of tries, it'll be close. But, yeah, it just didn't happen.
We didn't get a foothold in the game, you know.
We literally, whatever we didn't work. We either knocked it on or it was double. Was it Pollock did a double movement when he had that?
It was Seabrook.
Okay.
Pollock break, Seabrook.
Yeah.
And
it's just like, oh, God. It just, whatever we tried didn't work. And you just sat there going, what are we going to do?
That's frustration, isn't it? He saw he wasn't over the line and he was like, I've got to get over it. And you just, in that moment, you make an idiotic choice. And he'll know that he shouldn't have done it because it was so obvious on the playback that he did it. Everybody could see it. But you just, it's born out. It's just born out of frustration. That's what it is. And I think that's what your worst enemy is because a few things don't work and then you get frustrated. And at that point, it really isn't going to work because frustration is like the worst thing to overcome when you're already behind. And so, look, it wasn't good. We all know it wasn't good. It still feels like the margins aren't that big to where we need to be. Like, we're trying things, and when it does come together, we've got some of the best attack in the league, but it just, for whatever reason, it just didn't. And I think that is literally because it didn't work in the first half, and we came out in the second half, and everybody just looked frustrated and annoyed. And that's almost impossible to overcome when you're already down on the scoreboard.
The problem is we don't have a plan B. Plan A is attack.
Yeah.
For rugby, if it's peeing down with rain and you're getting your bottom smacked, you need to change it and try and play a different version of the game. And we didn't do that, and we just keep trying to play the same way. You need to have two extra, like you need a plan B and a plan C. But we just go, no, we'll still play the same way. We're losing by 33 points, but we're still going to try and run a try-in. It's not going to work.
You've got to do it like F1. Every time I watch F1, it's George, we're going to plan B. Lando, we're going to plan C. Like they've got all the possibilities in there.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, the whole philosophy around what they're building is, as soon as you invent a plan B, you're accepting plan A is not going to work.
But it weren't, was it?
No, but that is the club's mentality. It's like the problem is when you're getting B, you need your plan A to work. You're putting pressure on yourself, and a lot of what was going wrong was composure. Panic, playing a ball too late or too early because you haven't got that sort of confidence and that composure in the moment. And Seabrook, prime example, right? If he'd have just recycled the ball, we'd probably score. Yeah. But he didn't have the composure just to go through it.
Yeah.
He's so desperate to make something happen. Which
I hope that wasn't his job interview because apparently he's going there, isn't he? That would not have given me any.
I think we're losing 2 to them, aren't we? Because I'm pretty sure that Afar is. We've also. We signed a prop. I don't think it's on the same side, but. But I think it's pretty much well known that they're both going, so that'll be very interesting for them.
That's the thing. Please don't think I'm saying he didn't play, but if you're going to a club next season, are you going to play your best against them? Because you just think, well, hang on, I don't want to score a hat trick against them because they might not sign me. Like deep down in your head,
I think the opposite. I think you do.
No, the opposite. You do because all you're doing is telling that team, this is why you want me. Like,
Yeah,
you would probably I'd say
he
you'd play
didn't
your
show
best.
it.
I think.
That's what I'm saying. He didn't show
No,
it.
but then no, but it's like you said, it's one of those where it's just when the whole team is so below, individuals just can't do anything.
Yeah. The pressure of it the composure went out the window, and they really struggled back of it.
But I still feel like we can give, unfortunately, I have seen a lot of, we need to get rid of all of the coaches. I was like, we just won the title, lads. I think we can probably give them sort of at least a year's grace before we start thinking along those lines. Like, it depends. I really think that it would depend what would happen next year. I never felt like this year was a barometer of me being like, let's just get rid of everyone.
That's the fair weather fans that don't know what they're on about.
Yeah, no, it's just it happens so much of the time, and I was like, we won the title less than a year ago. I was like, let's calm. Like that's what the test for them is as coaches. It's, can we take a team that has lost a dramatic chunk of people, is going to have to rebuild, is probably going to have to bring in some new people because some others are leaving. Like, that's really where they're being tested. And so it's really more what happens over the next year or two, not what happens this year, because there's only so much they can do this year.
Yeah.
So
I think I agree. They've got to find an element of physicality from someone, and Rad has added a lot of physicality defensively and a lot of culture around that. And I think maybe with the new scrum coach, maybe that's what they're looking for. If best case scenario, sign someone like Matt Proudfoot, will he'd come with a bit of South African steel into the mix, and something like that, or what about someone potential like Dylan Hartley, who would really add a bit of feistiness into and a bit of hardness, because that seems to be we seem to have a bit of a mental soft underbelly, if that makes sense.
That's exactly what I was about to say before you start saying. We are literally the nice, sweet club. We don't do anything to break the rules. We've got lovely people on the board, lovely coaches. We haven't got anyone with a bit of grit, just to say it as it is. I hated the guy. What was the guy at Sarries? The South African.
Oh, yeah, Brenda Venter.
I absolutely hated him, but he would say it as it is, and he had a bit of grit behind him because he was a hard player. We haven't got that. Even in the pack, we haven't got a
we're a very clinical, high performance side, which is its merits, right? And I think Dalton's got a bit of stubbornness, and he says how it is, but we haven't got, he was on
the pitch.
Yeah, well, Dalton was hard as hell and worked his socks off, right?
Exactly.
That's what he was, and I would say there's a lot of that in this side. They work hard. They do have a bit of grit, but they don't have a lot of aggression.
No enforcer. That's what you need. Somebody just with a bit of like attitude. Pollock could be that. Pollock could be that in 5 years' time, because of he's really like that arrogant in a good way. Like, he's really good and he knows, and he always tries to pull someone's leg or pulls their sock or whatever. So he's a little bit. I won't swear, but it's called some housery. But he does it all the time. He did it against Wales, didn't he?
But you look at the players who like I said, the players that we lost: Waller, Moon, Ludlam, Laws, right? They are all of that in spades.
Exactly.
And we don't seem to have got that at the moment, right? There's lots of players who are stepping into the void, trying their best, but I think that's the edge we're missing, and that's, you add that into your attacking line, your forward pack giving you clean ball, getting over the ball in defence, it does make a big difference. I think that's just where we're missing, and you suddenly your backs have got more time, and you're not forcing things as much, etc., etc. But anyway, let's look ahead to Sale. I'm guessing
Enya
sort of said, Enya, sail away. But I think I'm guessing it's full go. Bring Mitch, bring Fremo in, try and find some form. Where does Fremo coming in? Is he coming in into the centres, or is he coming in on the wing?
I'd start Berger. I'd start Berger on the wing.
Have questions at the moment around. I don't want to say it, but around Hutchison's attitude to the game currently, based on the past two performances. I think he needs to sit one out.
But being subbed at half times pretty like that's telling him.
Yeah. Maybe that's enough of the message potentially, but I think if you're gonna have everyone back and you want to send you need to send the best team, I would be having Dingwall and Freeman in there as a centre partnership personally. But there's lots of different permutations they can do. That's the reality of it.
I think the thing with Hutchinson, right? I really rate him. I think skill-wise he's there. Defensive.
Skill-wise he's off the charts. Yeah,
he's a bit languid sometimes in his motions, but I think that's just the skill and class.
Mm-hmm.
But the last 2 games, we've been here before with him, often connected to his involvement with Scotland.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's whether he goes into those camps, doesn't get a look in. Maybe he's constantly playing as the opposition fly half in training or whatever, and he just loses something. It's like he's going through the motions because he's been going through the motions in training for Scotland.
It's got to be really hard because I feel like they're just messing with him because they clearly have no intention of. I really don't think they've got any intention of playing him. Bearing in mind, Tuapoloto is out with a long-term injury. That was his chance, and if they're not interested. So you almost just want to be like, as much as it sucks for him, like leave him alone, like stop taking him away from his club and ruining his routines. When deep down he knows that he's not going to get selected, but he's still going to be trying his absolute damnedest in training to put himself forward. Then the inevitable down comes because he isn't getting selected. At what point do you have to step back as a coach and be like, I'm messing with this player's ability to be settled and to play well because of what I am doing? Because like England had it a couple of times with Eddie Jones. I mean, how he set Furbank so far back. He really struggled when he got picked for England and then just drastically dropped. He struggled for about a year to get back up to where it definitely does have a toll on players. And so I absolutely understand that that's going to have been really, really difficult for him. And I think, maybe that's it. Maybe mentally he's just not where he needs to be because of that kind of situation. Because that's going to take a toll on anybody, really. Like you said, getting called up, getting in the team, perhaps even thinking he's finally got a shot because of Tuapoloto, and then to be kept in for a few weeks and then just, unceremoniously dropped back in. Yeah, that's got to be really, really difficult to adjust to.
Yeah, so it goes 2 ways, doesn't it? Dalton either needs to go away for a week, get yourself in a good headspace, come back and be the player that we know you are, or they need to rally around him and go, well, screw Scotland. Like, who cares what they think? We value.
Yeah, and only them, only the team and Hutchinson only they will know what's best for him. Yeah, exactly. If it's best for him to take a week off, bring Dingers and Freeman in. If it's not, perhaps you start him, perhaps he at least comes off of the bench. I don't know. Like I said, that they'll try and figure out the best way to manage whatever it is but at the moment, based on those 2 performances, I question if he's in the mental headspace. But perhaps continuing to play is what they figure is best to get him back there. Who knows? It's really hard to know as people that definitely are not skilled in that area of life.
And I mean, that's the thing though, that the sort of unknowing thing at the moment is, it probably makes sense that Finn rests, right? So like you said, so it might be the face of, I don't know whether GMC is about or not, but it might be the case of Hutch is going up there as 10, and it's almost like you're mucking him around even more. You're asking him to play out of position, and he looked really sharp in the start of the Paris game, right at 10, but it's not his natural position.
I would wonder if you're at the stage of if Finn has got to rest and there are question marks over Hutch, and GMC is still injured, that you do bring Zavala back for a game at 10.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see Mitchell, Smith, Dingwall, Freeman, right? Just play Claremont, hopefully play the quarterfinal, and then send them off to Dubai or whatever.
That's the thing, isn't it? Especially with Finn, and after that performance, they'll be questioning if they made the wrong call bringing him back in. Because it didn't really make much of it didn't make any difference, did it? So I mean that's high. Yeah, that's hindsight. that's how you know that they. Yeah, I can see why they didn't though, because Mitchell played a hell of a lot of minutes, and they knew they had to rest them before. So to me, it makes total sense that they split it in half rather than resting everyone at once. Like, I get why they did that, but I think that tells me how seriously they were taking the Tigers game, though. As much as the performance didn't live up to it, they put Finn in because they were taking it seriously. They wanted to win,
and because we don't really have an alternative at the moment. I mean, but
I would have played them all. I'd have played them all and then rested them against Sale, because it's them, and you need to win against. That's like the biggest bragging rights of the season.
Yeah, but we also don't know what the situation was. We talked about Freeman going off limping in the last game, so bearing in mind they're not just factoring in who's going off and when. It's, are both of them 100% fit to play this week? That also is a key kind of factor of that plays into it. Because like you said, it was, he didn't look 100, but at least Freeman didn't look 100% at the end of the last game. So maybe it makes the most sense for him to take a week off just in case.
It's also worth noting that we're missing a huge factor in Furbank. Furbank pre-injury was our best player. Yeah. Like, notably our best player on the pitch. He was leading. He was getting forward. He was clearly the best player for half the season. So to have him not be there when we really need someone out there is a big loss.
Yeah,
but,
he's captain.
And he's, from what I understand, he won't be back before Claremont, if he's even ready for Claremont. From what I've read and what I understand, he hurt his arm over the week.
Say that. He was targeting Claremont.
So he definitely, it definitely isn't going to be Sale. So, we have to assume that. Yeah. So, and like I said, that's what's best, isn't it? Because if you want him to come back and you need him to be fit coming back, then Europe that's the target at this point, isn't it? That realistically is the target this year. We've got a decent chance. I say this even with the performance, we've got a decent chance of making it to the semi-finals. We've got a really good draw in terms of the 2 rounds before that. And then, I mean, if we're playing well on the day, and Ireland and ergo Leinster are a little bit, probably not quite where they want to be, anything could happen that day. But I do think that that's what they're targeting at this point.
You got to think about with Claremont as well, though. I don't know if you watched the French rugby, but they're thereabouts near the quali at the top to win it. So will they send a full strength side over against us?
They lost against Russell at the weekend, but yeah.
They will, but the issue with France is that the French teams, you can't read that much into how they play domestically, because they're awful travellers. It seems to be a thing for most of the teams. They are awful travellers. I don't know why, because it's not like it's far, but they are terrible travellers. So, but I think just on the draw we get Claremont, and then if other results go our way, we've got Cast at home, who we've already beaten. As I'm fairly confident that we'd be able to get past them too. And then, like I said, you get a semi-final in Europe again. And genuinely on the day, genuinely, if we can put it all together and we're firing 100%, there is a genuine chance to get through to the round after that. So, that they will be targeting that at this point. And like I said, they're going to go strong at Sale, and I don't think that's because they're targeting the Prem anymore. It's just because we won't have form going into that Claremont game if we don't.
Yeah, we've got to find something from somewhere. Right, it seems like the most impossible question of all time now, but picks, what are we thinking? I think it's, in theory, me to go first, but I really don't want to.
Well, normally we go through, we need to figure out who we think is going to be select. Well, I suppose we're thinking the same team, aren't we? With
I don't
the
think
same
I've ever
team
gone
with certain
first,
people.
to be fair.
No, because you're always
you
in
go
the
first.
middle side.
Yeah.
You are?
Because you're always in the middle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so like.
Well, no,
like,
you could go first this time.
Go first now if you want.
Go
I've
first.
already gone. I think we're going to get absolutely battered. I'm going 38-17. And Mitchell, if he plays, to score a try. Because we haven't won in Sales for about 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah,
so
we looked beginning of last season when we almost did it. I thought, oh wow, we're actually.
Yeah.
Even though we lost, I thought the fact that we almost won, I was like, all right, we're actually a good side. It was sort of a clean, it was a really good indicator, I thought, for us last year. But
I watched them against Newcastle. They looked really good. And
yeah.
I know it's Newcastle, but no offense to Newcastle, but it's just insane some of the players they've got. And Ford looked actually pretty decent. So
yeah, I think they're almost the antithesis of us in the sense of they've got a real edge to them, a real physical edge, but not necessarily all that clinical. But they'll be strong.
You know I hate picking against Saints, but I've got to be real. We're not going to win that.
I don't think we will either. I'm going to go for 35-22. And I'm going to pick Fremont.
I'm going to do the opposite to you two. I'm going to stick my neck out and say that we were so bad last week that they are going to be absolutely livid, and they're going to pull it out of the bag somehow. They won't, but I'm going to say it anyway. So I'm going to go 25-28, and I'm picking Hendy for a redemption arc.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping so. I mean, he's such a good player.
Exactly.
The problem is,
I'm not saying that deep down I don't think we're going to win, but I also think that like if they can utilize that performance last week in a positive way, it could surprise everyone.
The problem you got is like if we do rubbish at our jobs, we just get told off. Whereas if they do it on a rugby pitch, there's 15,000 people going, he had a rubbish game, and it's totally different.
Yeah,
definitely. He's a quality, and he is close to being a world-class player. He'll step back up. It was just the tension in that stadium, then the weather. It was just a bad day at the office. So.
Yeah, it's why I'm picking him. I'm picking the team's redemption arc and his personal redemption arc.
Yeah, I think as I say, I don't think we necessarily need to win because that is a really a really hard task to go to Sale on a Friday night and win, right? I don't think for us to get some form back to go into Claremont with an inch hope of winning that we actually need to go and win. I think obviously they need to go with the intention of winning, and they should themselves think that they should win. But from the outside, I think if they defend well, they put up a proper fight, they put some scores on the board, and it's a close game, that would sort of reignite a bit of something within the squad that Claremont is a possibility that we can actually get past. Because if Claremont will come in on Saturday, I would say, well, that's that. That's the season completely. But because you're playing to finish 8th, so you get Champions Cup rugby next year. But but anyway, I think that's all that we can say. It's been probably one of the worst, most negative podcasts we've actually ever done. I mean, I
thought we were quite positive considering. I was dreading doing it. I was dreading doing it. I was like, oh god, I got to talk about that game again. Though I'm trying to forget about it.
That's one of the worst moments of my life. That Friday.
Oh god, it was awful. It was just awful. Sat there, and I stayed the whole 80. I don't think I've ever got home as quick though, because I think everybody.
It's funny that for me still comes like second to losing against them in the final.
Yeah.
That gutted me. That did, because I felt like we lost it on a god awful red card decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that for me stands out. Is that still my number one worst?
I don't know. I felt that game like we put up a fight. We were sort of.
But it's one of those things. It's just
a bit. Whereas
it's like a personal thing. Whereas like if I was looking back on it in sort of 20 years, I still think that's the one I'd remember as the top of my list. Genuinely.
Being nilled at home all day long.
Especially when you weigh it up against obviously what happened the year after. That one sticks in my mind personally.
That was the building. So
this is
a attempt, and then
this is a close second. Yeah, it's definitely a close second here.
Trust me, I've been thousands of games. It's probably worse than that. I just can't remember them.
On my deathbed, they'll all come back to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've probably seen a lot worse away from somewhere. I can't think of it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been some bad away ones, that's for sure. Some miles travelled. My brother actually came up for the game on Friday night. He was a ticket holder, but he hasn't been for a couple of years. Hasn't been in a few years because he lives down in Southampton. So he drove up all the way from Southampton to watch that, to drive back the same night. Yeah,
all the way back down the A34 in that rain. Lovely.
But anyway, fingers crossed we see a bit of a turnaround this week, and the spirit of the Saints can come back for sure. But anyway, thanks very much for listening. I've been Charles, Simon's been Simon, Jess has been Jess. Please give us feedback, please get in touch, please share and let your friends know about us. But thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Goodbye.